The modern conflict between Israel and Palestine is one of the most enduring and deeply complicated geopolitical struggles of recent centuries. To truly understand its dynamics, one must dive deep into the overlapping historical narratives, religious intricacies, and competing national claims that sowed the seeds of this conflict long ago. This extensive overview aims to illuminate the complex origins, starting from ancient times. Ancient connection to the Holy Land. Both Jews and Arabs lay ancestral claim to the region encompassing present-day Israel and Palestine, with roots stretching back millennia. For Jews, the earliest biblical texts document their presence in the land of Canaan from around 1200 BCE, establishing Jerusalem as their spiritual capital and the site of Solomon's temple. Islamic tradition also links Palestine as the destination of Prophet Muhammad's miraculous night journey from Mecca in 620 CE. Over subsequent centuries, the Holy Land saw waves of conquest and rule by foreign powers including Babylonians, Persians, Greeks, Romans, Byzantines, Crusaders, Mamluks and Ottoman Turks. During this time, Jews represented a minority due to exile and diaspora following Roman destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE. Arab-Muslim rule beginning in the 7th century saw an influx of Arab immigration, yet local residents identified as Palestinian Arabs rather than a nationalist identity. Both communities maintained cultural and religious links to their ancestral homeland through pilgrimages and sacred sites even while living abroad as minorities under different empires. This intertwining of religious tradition and historical presence set the stage for modern conflict over sovereignty and self-determination in the 20th century. European Zionism and initial immigration waves. In the late 19th century, as anti-Semitism spread virulently across Europe culminating in the Holocaust, the Zionist movement emerged among Ashkenazi Jews to advocate for a Jewish national homeland where they could live freely and securely. The movement's intellectual father Theodor Herzl popularized the term Zionism in his 1896 treatise, The Jewish State. Initial small-scale Jewish migration to Ottoman-controlled Palestine began in the 1880s, driven by both Zionist ideology and Russian pogroms. However, Zionist political activity intensified after WW1 and the 1917 Balfour Declaration by the British government endorsed the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. Continued Arab-Jewish tensions arose amid Israeli immigration, which accelerated with the rise of Nazism. By 1948, Jews represented around one-third of the population locally. British rule, Arab revolt and UN partition plan. Following defeat of the Ottoman Empire in WW1, Britain obtained a League of Nations mandate to administer Palestinian territories in 1923. However, British policy became inconsistent, alternately supporting Jewish immigration to appease Zionists yet restricting it to appease rising Arab nationalism. This triggered the 1936-1939 Arab Revolt against British rule and Jewish settlement. As the Holocaust's full scale became clear, growing international support emerged for a Jewish state. In 1947, the newly formed United Nations addressed the conflict via the UN Partition Plan, which recommended dividing the British Mandate into two independent states, one Arab, one Jewish, with Jerusalem under special international oversight. Arab leaders rejected this, resenting any loss of lands they considered historically Arab. War, independence and the First Arab-Israeli War. Declaring their independence in May 1948, Zionist Jews established the modern State of Israel within the partition boundaries. However, several Arab armies immediately invaded the fledgling nation, aiming to block partition. After a year of intense fighting, Israel managed to defend itself and beyond, taking more territory originally designated as part of the Arab state under the Partition Plan. This war established the State of Israel but created over 700,000 Palestinian refugees, known as Nakba, catastrophe, in Arabic. Disputed territories and successive wars. Ever since, the territories captured beyond the 1948 boundaries like the West Bank and East Jerusalem have been at the heart of competing sovereignty claims. Arab refusal to recognize Israel and ongoing border disputes sparked recurrent major wars, including the 1956 Suez Crisis and 1967 Six-Day War, where Israel gained control of the West Bank, Gaza Strip, Golan Heights and Sinai Peninsula. Attempts at diplomatic resolutions have failed amid cycles of violence and an often intransigent approach from leaders on both sides deeply wedded to their competing narratives. Rise of Palestinian nationalism and intifadas. By the late 1960s, Palestinians began asserting their own national identity independent of surrounding Arab nations. The 1980s saw heightened Palestinian civil unrest and protests called intifadas against Israeli occupation, characterized by stone-throwing youths confronting advanced Israeli military hardware. Meanwhile, continued Israeli settlement expansion angered Palestinians seeking statehood. Several attempts at brokered peace like the 1993 Oslo Accords maintained disputed borders and outstanding final status issues to be resolved later. Ongoing cycle of conflict. Into the 21st century, violence and diplomatic stalemates have continued dominating the conflict due to competing visions of sovereignty, disputed East Jerusalem, ongoing occupation and settlement expansion, failed peace talks, periodic uprisings from militant factions like Hamas that govern Gaza, and lack of trust between leadership on both sides. While international consensus supports a two-state solution, complex realities on the ground may necessitate alternative frameworks. For now, the cycle grinds on with no end clearly in sight to this deeply intertwined and emotionally fraught territorial, religious and nationalist dispute with roots reaching back centuries into contested histories. Only open-minded efforts on both sides can overcome these fundamental drivers and forge a more just and lasting peace.